Command codes verified. Priority 1 message from Starfleet coming in on secured channel.
Hello, Captains, and welcome to the live broadcast recording of episode 515 of Priority 1, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. No Cat this week, unfortunately, but
Nope.
Roscoe's back.
I'm back. And I have one thing to say, and that is cheeseburger. Cheeseburger. So, Tony, thank you. Thank you very much for filling in. Cheeseburger.
Cheeseburger.
Sure. Yeah, sure. Cheeseburger.
Sure.
Yeah.
But you're
Water.
not from
I'll
Minnesota,
have a
so I
water.
want to be sure. I'd be like, sure.
Soda. Sure.
Soda, sure.
Soda. Water.
All right. Well, without further ado, why don't we jump into a show? Thank you, everybody who's already in the chat saying hello. Folks like Ken from Chicago, Viper Wolf, Tracy Lee Coco stopped by, and who else did I miss? Who else? Yeah, Jamal.
Dave Rutley.
Dave Rutley. So don't forget that as we go into the recording now, don't forget to share it with your friends. Let them know that we're doing our weekly roundup of Star Trek news right now, right here on Priority One, and that we'll be offering some commentary. So share it and like it and get involved and help spread the word about the show.
That's always very much appreciated.
So without further ado, am I peaking? Does it sound like I'm peaking?
No, you sound amazing. You sound like the best you've ever sounded.
It's weird. I hear like almost static. Not static, but like like a peak that's being controlled.
Okay. All I can hear on my microphone, and it's in the very far distance, is the sound of someone using a lawnmower. Because
it's my air filter.
It's about 11:30 in the morning.
Oh, on your end.
Yeah.
On your end.
On my end, yeah. It's the sound of a lawnmower. They're not going to be mowing
so it's
the
not
lawn.
snowing where you are. I saw headlines that kangaroos were frolicking in the snow.
Yeah. That's that would be very, very, very far south of us. So at the moment in Queensland, it is winter, so it's chilly of a morning. But right now, there's not a cloud in the sky and the sun is out. It's absolutely magic. So this is winter in Queensland.
Very cool.
It's like going to Florida for winter.
Right.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of that.
We go south.
So there's no. There's no snow in Queensland unless it's the very, very south alpine-ish regions of Queensland. Not even alpine properly.
Got it. All right, I'm gonna hit record here, and let's jump in for a show.
Let's do it.
3, 2. Why don't you do the cold open?
I can do the cold open. No problem. This week on episode 515 of Priority One, the Federation headquarters finds a new home in Ohio. The USS Steve Jobs, Kelvin, might have a reason for why it looks so flashy. And in gaming, Star Trek Online's new time currency sync might have worked. Later, Dr. Michael Chan looks on screen with an analysis and review of the short trek Children of Mars.
Hello, Captains. You're listening to episode 515 of Priority One, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. Your weekly recap and review of all the major news happening in the Star Trek multiverse. This episode was recorded on Tuesday, July 6th, and available for download or streaming on Friday, July 9th at PriorityOnePodcast.com. I'm Elio.
And I'm Roscoe.
And unfortunately, no Kat this week. She's fallen ill with Andorian flu, or whatever Star Trek disease you want to think of. But we wish her
Andorian flu, that's nasty.
I've heard. But we wish her a speedy recovery, and we're sure she'll be back next week.
How was your weekend of the 4th?
It was quiet and relaxing. We went out on Friday night with some of Allie's friends to a little hipster town in Pennsylvania called New Hope. Caught some dinner and had some great conversation, and then the rest of the weekend was pretty low-key. So,
fantastic.
That
is excellent.
Thank you. We hope that those of you that did celebrate in the United States did so safely and still have all your fingers.
Of course. Well, my weekend, I was due to travel south to a place called the Gold Coast, which is
I hear they have a
fantastic.
great buffet.
They do. They have an amazing buffet. They also have fantastic weather, and it's a very tourist-focused spot in Queensland. They have an annual marathon festival, and I was about to go running the 10K in that But unfortunately, snap 3-day lockdown due to COVID-19. So that got postponed. But luckily, a local triathlon club with a couple of days' notice organised a marathon, a half marathon, and a 10K event. So they did an amazing job. We ended up just running along the foreshore here in this part of Queensland, and it was absolutely beautiful. So I still got to do my 10K on Sunday morning, and it was fantastic.
Good for you, man. Good for you. And I'm glad that the vaccine didn't knock you out for too long and that you were able to get back on the trails. But we want
just
to...
a couple of days.
Oh, sorry. We'll switch it up and I'll take this. But we want to welcome... But moving on, we do need to welcome new listeners to the show. I don't like that transition. Well, we all hope you... we hope that you all had a wonderful weekend. And now it's time to welcome new listeners to our show. And we hope that you'll stay in touch with us. Because, you see, this show is produced by a community of volunteers who donate their time and their talents and, like you, are passionate about what Star Trek is all about.
So we ask you to get involved and be a part of our podcast community. You can follow us on social media, or you can share your thoughts about the weekly headlines and have them read aloud on our show. Or you can consider joining the team and lending your time and talents to producing this show. If you find value in this podcast, you can consider supporting us financially by joining our Patreon family. Yes, I said that right. Yeah. Okay, cool. Just, sorry, total brain fart. Don't mind me.
Actually,
it's the phone. No, it's financially and then the family. And that's what brought me undone. Dave Rutley, I need a good dose of Romulan ale. Or I've already had one. I'm not quite sure.
Here, read. Take it from the top here, and then I'll fill in here.
Taking it from the top. Shit. So we ask you to get involved and be a part of our podcast community. Follow us. Good. Welcome back to me.
Welcome back.
It's great.
Welcome back.
Great to have me back.
It's going to be a good show.
Oh, this is the start, man. This is the start. So we ask you to get involved and be a part of our podcast community. Follow us on social media so you can share your thoughts about the weekly headlines and have them read aloud on our show. Or consider joining the team and lending your time and talents to producing this show.
Now, if you don't happen to have the time to participate in the production of a podcast, we do have a Patreon page where you can offer a financial contribution each and every month to make sure that we can keep the lights on, that we can keep improving on the show and the technology behind it. You may have seen some headlines that Audacity is garbage now, thanks to some terms of service changes that now pretty much classify it as spyware. So, in order to continue to produce a show, we want to do it safely, where our volunteer editors can have the tools at their disposal to help us, can have the tools at their disposal to help us continue to edit this show without compromising their computers. So, again, we have a Patreon page over at patreon.com/priority1, where we offer some tiered incentives for your monthly contributions, like an extra show called After Hours. We've currently been live watching some of the short treks, and tonight's our last one. So if you are interested in a Mystery Science Theater style format of reviews for the short treks, be sure to check us out over at patreon.com. And speaking of patrons, we do need to welcome Bertholf. Thank you so very much for your contributions and for your support of the show. You can just sweep us out.
Now, let's find out what's been happening in the Star Trek multiverse.
650. Crap. All right, we got to take notes.
650. On it. On it.
You got the notes?
Doing it.
I mean, the times. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right.
650.
All right. Well, I'm ready to jump in. So hey, Ed O'Connell. Haven't seen you in a while, man. Hope you're doing well. And who else joined me?
Hey, Ed.
Yeah. There is a a thunderstorm rolling through. Jamal and Ed, you probably are receiving some of it too. But yeah, you might be hearing thunder. You may hear loud thunder.
Okay. I was looking at your rain radar because I love me a good rain radar and satellite, and it looked pretty hectic. There's a lot of thunderstorm activity.
Well, the red is right above me. That's what I was saying. I was like, I'm about 2 or 3 miles west of New Brunswick, and it was just red all above us. So,
yeah. No, well, I can tell you that right now it is it's nothing. There's nothing in the sky. There's blue, and that is all. I'm looking out the window right now.
Good for you.
Blue.
Good for you.
Nothing.
Good for you.
Sun. There's sunshine. So much vitamin D. It's beautiful.
That's delightful.
Soaking it up. I feel like I'm on Riser, man.
That's great.
I'm on Riser.
That's delightful.
I'm on so much. Like, this is how much I'm on Riser. So much. Oh, hang on.
Oh, look at that. Oh, look
so
at
much
the
better.
shades. Oh, wow.
Oh,
Wow.
so much better.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Oh, man. You're the
No,
coolest.
that doesn't quite work. I'm on Riser, man. We're on Riser right now.
All right.
All
Shall
right.
we do Trek It Out?
Disco leaves.
All right.
Indeed,
We'll do
indeed it
Trek
does.
It
Ken
Out
from Chicago. Let's trek it out.
at 9. We'll start at the 9-minute mark.
9-minute mark. Roger that.
So 3, 2. You read it.
Way to be collegial.
All right, I'll read
man.
it. I'll read
Thanks
it. All
Thanks for bringing me in. Yeah.
If there's one thing that can be said about Star Trek fans, is that they work hard to celebrate their passions for the franchise, often by donating their time and talents to labors of love, like a podcast. But a particular fan group known as the Federation is one such organization that takes it to the next level. For over 36 years, the group's goal has been to, quote, provide, promote, and support education and positive legal activism in the area of human rights. Let me take that from the top. For over 36 years, the group's goal has been to, quote, provide, promote, and support education and positive legal activism in the area of human rights, racial and sexual equality, environmental causes, and space exploration. To promote a more positive impression of Star Trek fans as intelligent, socially conscious, active individuals who are aware and concerned about the real world today. End quote. Having worked directly with Gene Roddenberry in its early years, the group boasts over 2,000 members with over 30 chapters. Now, the group is settling down its official headquarters in Huron, Ohio. Joining them to christen the new location will be Nichelle Nichols, known best by fellow Trekkies as Uhura from the original series. Money raised during the event will go to Nichelle's retirement fund. So, if you happen to be in Ohio the weekend of September 10th, be sure to if you happen to be in the Ohio area the weekend of September 10th, be sure to grab a ticket to one of Nichelle's final appearances.
That's really wonderful that they're donating directly to Nichelle and keeping her safe and happy and well and looking after her in her retirement. That's a really beautiful thing, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, I think many Trekkies might be aware of and have seen the crowdfunding campaigns to help her. I think we might have briefly covered it several months ago, but there's a lot to it that we just don't know about, and therefore we don't want to. We're not a gossip podcast, so we're not going to be gossiping about it, right? We want to make sure that what we deliver is actual, news. But Nichelle has had some legal difficulties over the last several years, over conservatorship, things like that. You can go ahead and Google it and read up on it on your own. But yeah, right. This is a very good way of supporting her. She's done so much in pop culture to shape young minds and to help shape the future that, a little stop like this in Ohio with surrounded by fans is certainly a great way to support her. We can move on to the next story if you want.
I have nothing further to add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. What to get your favorite Trekkie for Christmas? It's the question you have 6 months to ponder, and thankfully we at Priority One are here to help. Unfortunately for the Captain Picard fanatic, I have terrible news. In the prop store's most recent auction, the original flute from the Star Trek The Next Generation episode The Inner Light sold for $190,000. It was sold among other items, including the original Statler and Waldorf puppet heads from the Muppets, Harry Potter's glasses, and Indiana Jones' fedora, as worn in the Temple of Doom, which sold for $375,000. If those items were a little outside your budget, then Hallmark have previewed their exclusive offerings coming to the home version of San Diego and New York Comic-Cons. They'll be offering limited quantities, and yes, they will. That's good. Good on them. Great. Fuck. Anyway, shit. Moving on. They'll be offering limited quantities of a few exclusive ornaments, including a Star Trek Klingon bird of prey. Released in honor of the 35th anniversary of Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home, the one with the whales, yeah. The Klingon bird of prey ship comes complete with the HMS Bounty paint stylings from the movie. It will set you back $35 with only $3,750 available.
Now, occasionally, the creators of Star Trek throw the fans a curveball. Whether it's giving Klingons a complete makeover, using a Rod Stewart song as a theme, or giving Klingons yet another makeover. But one change that stirred the pot was the bridge redesign in the Kelvin timeline. You know, the one that looked like an Apple store. For all intents and purposes, J.J. Abrams... Oh, shit. I already made that joke.
Need these to get on the bridge.
For all intents and purposes, J.J. Abrams put an Apple store on the bridge with lots of additional lens flare. But one intrepid fan over at Den of Geek wants to try and help fill in those canonical gaps with some of his own headcanon. But one intrepid fan over at Den of Geek wants to try and help fill those canonical gaps with some of his own thoughts and observations. You see, according to Ryan Britt's headcanon, it all makes sense. First, it starts with an explanation from screenwriter Roberto Orci and director J.J. Abrams. Orci seems to have explained that Starfleet reverse-engineered the Narada's tech from scans taken by the USS Kelvin. Britt goes on to point out that this might be a plausible explanation given that New Trek on Paramount Plus, you know, Picard, Discovery, has finally embraced and acknowledged the existence of the Kelvin timeline. So, there you have it. The USS Steve Jobs explained.
So all the shuttlecraft that were scooting away from the Kelvin before it exploded, their sensors gone through. The idea is in headcanon, they've scanned the Narada and gone, this technology is incredible. We're going to download that, download the scans, because there was a lot of them. We got a lot of scans. And from that, Starfleet has reverse engineered basically a whole bunch of LEDs to go around behind their consoles.
Right.
To make battle stations, literally make battle stations with lens flare.
Right. I have a hard time wrapping my mind around this. Like when creators of official content have to kind of explain these things off camera and interviews and whatnot, I feel like it defeats the purpose, right? These dramatic changes to Star Trek that have happened over the course of these, since the J.J. Abrams Kelvin timeline,
2009.
You know, I feel like they end up having to explain it later more than anything else, right? There's just, whereas if you watch The Mandalorian, where you watch Loki or something on, you know, Marvel, you don't ever really need to hear any of those kind of explanations. It all just makes sense. So I don't know. I understand the concept of world building and crossing media platforms. Like, book tie-ins, comic tie-ins, video game tie-ins. That's all fun and games if there happen to have been some games and comics to have actually explained these things. So, sure, I guess, yeah, they took scans and then reversed engineered Romulan Borg technology to then create a very white Apple store with lots of lighting. Or you can just say, we just didn't want it to look like anything Star Trek before, and so we redesigned the whole thing to in JJ's image.
I completely disagree. I really enjoy the fact that they went through and did explain that after the fact. I have no problem with that whatsoever. I went into the 2009 Kelvin timeline movies going, they have thought about setting up a separate timeline and branching off from existing canon through the black hole, through the red matter, through Spock coming back in time and going off in an entirely different direction. I have no problem whatsoever with that headcanon going through after the fact to explain the design. We're supposed to go into those films suspending our disbelief.
Hold on a second.
So you've got to give it a chance from you go into it giving it a chance. And not going, oh my God, where did they get all these lights from?
No. But
here's the thing. That is not my Star Trek. Get off my lawn.
Put yourself in the shoes of people who may not have their ear to the ground as much as we do. The fans of Trek that don't read every interview that JJ or Roberto Orsi or Alex Kurtzman do, right? People that just go to watch the film and then walk out and wait till the next show. Yeah. Right?
Great.
I would imagine that those people walk out going, WTF, what was that? That did not look like Star Trek. That did not look like the Bridge of the Enterprise. What was the purpose of that? Right?
I don't think they do. I don't think they do at all.
You know why I think they do?
No, I don't think they do. I think they go in and they go,
like that
they either get taken in by the story and brought along, and if that's the case, then they're not going to walk away going, that bridge was really bright, right? Right? It wasn't just me. No. They're going to get taken away with the story.
Well, apparently the story wasn't enough to carry them away because walking out of it was like, yo, what was that about the bridge? What was this about that? So, these may be fun, but you know what would be even more entertaining is if an explanation like this was in, soft canon, like a comic book series, like in the Countdown series or the Nero series or the Spock series that came out after it, right? Where they kind of, explain it in the comics or in a novel. And then you can say to your friend, oh, well, they were trying this thing with cross promotion and cross marketing and cross media. Here, let me lend you this comic. Oh, wow, this is a great comic. I'm going to go buy it and blah, 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 or share it with my kid or whatnot, right? Like that would be interesting marketing, right? Where it just, you cross platforms. But number one, even when they have tried it, they don't honor it. They end up not honoring their own canon, which is a mistake. And that's just about it. Number two is that they just simply don't do it. So, I would, as rational as that explanation is to me, I just, as a solo film, it doesn't make sense.
Okay, so you're letting you're being emotional. You're not being Vulcan. You are. I am. You're not being. Your Vulcan logic has left you. You understand and appreciate your logic, but you haven't rid yourself and cleansed yourself of emotion.
I see.
Okay.
I see.
You need to go through and you need to do that in order to accept the logic, because logically this works for me. I have no problem with it, and now I can go back and I'll watch
one line. Make sure to get as many scans as possible. We don't know what this ship is. And then, all right, well, they got other scans, right? Little things like that. I'm watching Loki, right? And it is amazing what Disney has been able to do with their secondary characters. I am so invested in this show, and it's about freaking time travel and multi-timelines. And Star Trek, when I think about timelines in Star Trek, my head wants to explode, right? Because there's just so many of them. And yet, here in this show, Loki, they've managed to do it so beautifully and so elegantly. I wish some of the writers would switch over to Star Trek. so that we wouldn't have to get side channel explanations in separate interviews.
But there's always going to be those after the fact interviews, those after the fact details from everything.
Of course.
From every episode, every series.
A big change like that shouldn't require a side conversation about it. Not a big
Does
one.
the setup of the bridge, when they come onto the bridge and you go, oh my God, it looks like an Apple store. Does that stick with you, or is that just a fleeting moment in your brain?
No, it
and
sticks
then
with
you
bro.
continue on with your life.
No, it sticks with you the entire movie because of the on top of the change, there's lens flare blinding you, keeping you from actually seeing an actor's facial expression at a key moment. All of a sudden, you know, there's a serious moment, but no, it's washed away by lens flare. So yes, the whole movie I'm thinking, the lens flare, the Apple store, what?
So is it the lens flare or is it the Apple store?
Both. It's
that's
the combination of both.
Because you seem to be focusing on the lens flare, which is an entirely separate issue. Again, you're letting your emotions take control, and I need you to cleanse, like 3-day ritual. You need to go through.
I'll send you
and
my
just
therapy
cleanse
bill,
that.
Roscoe. I'll send you my therapy bill, and then we can work on my emotions. Well, captains, that's all. Oh wait, do we have one more? No. Well, captains.
No, we're good.
Well, captains, that's all the news we have to trek out this week. Now, let's find out what happened in the world of Star Trek gaming.
Do we want to include a community question on that discussion? And the question could be, is Elio being emotional and not logical in regards to the 2009 Star Trek film?
No.
Let us know in the comments section.
We can do... All right, here's our first community question.
Ken from Chicago, the one with the whales. Simple time travel, the one with the whales. You go back, you pick up a couple of whales, you bring them in. They fit them in a bird of prey, for God's sake. It's huge. How big is a bird of prey? Big enough for at least a couple of whales. What are we on? 20. We'll call that 24:45.
No, we're not done.
For the end of Track It Out.
No, we're not done. We gotta do.
We're not done. We're not done. Is Roscoe being a bit too dismissive? No.
He is.
No. Move on.
If I was his girlfriend, I'd slap him.
Oh, ouch.
Don't tell me about my emotions.
Sick burn, man. I need some ice for that burn.
Partner, I don't even have to be a girlfriend. If I was just your partner. How
That's my
dare
wife,
you talk to me about emotions?
That is my wife. How very dare you.
Interviews like these ever make your radar outside of listening to podcasts like ours? Come across your radar, ever come across?
Yeah. Also, what LED lights have you used at your battle station?
All right.
Let us know in the comments section.
Well, that leads us to our first community question. Emotions or not. Here's our... Do interviews like these ever come across your radar outside of listening to podcasts? Well, that leads us to our first emotional community question. Do interviews like these ever come across your radar outside of listening to podcasts like ours? Do they happen to help fill in continuity gaps for you and fill in that headcanon? Let us know in the comments section for this episode at PriorityOnePodcast.com or by replying to our community question post on our social media channels like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Okay, can you sweep us out now?
Well, captains, that's all the logical news we have to track out this week. Let's find out. Now, let's find out what's been happening. Now, let's find out what happened in the world of Star Trek gaming.
You emotional bastard. 27-minute mark. 27-minute mark.
Zen. I'm all zen, man.
27-minute mark. That's because you let out all your emotion and rage and frustrations running 800 miles.
Running. Genuinely, it's the best thing. You get the runner's high afterwards. I ended up I ran with a lady on the weekend. We ran the second half of the 10K together because we ran to the bit and then we turned around and we ran back to the start. and we just happened to have a good pace. So we ran together and we talked the entire way and had the most amazing in-depth conversation for half an hour. I've never met her before in my life. I may never see her again, but we bonded in that 30 minutes and it was amazing. Nice. And like we had a hug afterwards because, you know, we can do that. And then I'll never see her again. And it was great. Nice. Gaming news.
All right, the start of gaming, 28 minutes. Start of gaming,
28 minutes. Let's call that 28 minutes.
Right. Do you want me to read it, or do you want to read what you wrote?
Why don't I read that one?
All right. So actually, gaming will start at 28:15.
28:15. 28:15. Roger that.
3, 2, whenever you're ready.
In the past week, Star Trek Online has seen a changing fashion scene. Summer is definitely in, with short shorts, shorter bikinis, and transcendent tribbles adding colour to the beautiful riser rainbow at sunset. In orbit and in sector space, starships across the galaxy are sporting their shiny new vanity shields as players take advantage of the commodity now being available for purchase with dilithium. They're high-cost, premium items, and making them available this way is designed to lower the cost of dilithium on the exchange. This week, Star Trek Online community manager Mike Fatum posted a question to Twitter, asking the community for their feedback on other items that players would spend their hard-earned dilithium on over and over, more like a service than a one-off purchase. He said on Twitter, quote, "Musing, I'm getting a ton of very good suggestions for already existing items that we could sell for Dill as a sink, and those are great. But most of them, ships for example, are things that people only want to buy once. As we saw with the vanity shields, that stuff has a pretty temporary impact. A good dilithium sink is something that people will want to spend Dill on over and over. The Phoenix upgrades were a good idea for this reason. So what's something you would pay a lot of dilithium for to have access to over and over?" Elio, what would you pay to have access to over and over that you can't purchase right now with dilithium?
I don't know, man. That's an interesting question.
My first thought for me is expanding my duty officer roster. It drives me nuts that I have to spend Zen on that.
No, it's after all these years, I feel like the duty officer system has peaked in such a way that I don't, I have the duty officers that I need by now. You can get them now, even as a new player, you can get those like must-have duty officers. And then beyond that, I just don't see a point to the system, right? So I don't care to invest in it, right? It's more now like just a completion thing. Like, yeah, I want to complete it because it's something to complete. But beyond that, I don't see what benefit it has, right? Like, sure, you can get dilithium by doing it and some other rewards, but beyond that, it doesn't impact my gameplay enough for me to want to invest more time in it. Honestly, like the Lobby store stuff, man, I just, why not convert the Lobby store into a dilithium store and that's it. Get rid of Lobby. Why, there's so many currencies in Star Trek Online, whether it's reputation, whether it's it used to be event progress, but reputation and Lobby, energy credits, Zen, Gold Press Platinum, all these things that I feel after 10 years, we should think about streamlining it and making it easier for incoming players, right? If Star Trek Online is now focused on keeping cheeks and seats somehow, and then also enticing potential players from the new Trek that is on Paramount Plus, then it can be overwhelming in a much grander sense than any other MMO that I think I've ever played. There's just so many currencies, so many different systems that perhaps a currency remap, a currency restructure, is one of those things that might just help the game in a much better way.
I remember when I first started playing, and it took me a really long time to understand the currencies, the different currencies, and how they all worked. I immediately recognized them. You know, you recognize dilithium, you recognize gold press latinum, so because you have knowledge of the franchise. But then understanding how they worked, where I could get them, what that purchased, took me a really long time. I think I joined in 2014, so around the Solanae expansion, and it was a real challenge, and it was that baby steps thing of just focus on what you know for a time and then slowly expand it out. But yeah, I like the idea of streamlining the currencies because there are a lot of them. For me, going back to your point about duty officers and that system, for me, it's about maxing out and maxing out the levels across all of the different departments. It's then about dilithium, other R&D resources, making sure they're available, and also fleet credits. It's a nice little way to generate some passive fleet credits for my fleet, because it's all about the fleet and the armada.
The other thing about the currencies is that not only are there several currencies, but there are also several stores, right? There are several windows that you can open up and buy something, you know, what the dilithium store, the reputation store, obviously the Zen store and whatnot, and then, you know, the epic prize pack stores. And, you know, there are so many things that just don't feel organized or streamlined that you almost stumble upon and then go, wait, what's this? That, I don't know, maybe this is a way to, all right, well, if dilithium is the time currency, then why do we need gold press latinum? Why do we need, you know...
what purpose does it serve in the game?
Right,
Apart from recognizing that it is a part of that universe, what actual purpose does it serve in the game? That would be the question.
If the idea of dilithium is to keep players playing in order to provide them a method of enhancing their gameplay without spending money, then what's the point of the other ones? Just make everything dilithium, right? If you want that shield from the Gold Press Latinum store, well, just why call it Gold Press Latinum? Just make it dilithium. You know, keep the mini game. Why not? You know, sure, keep the mini game as fun, and you know, GPL is ethereal kind of thing. But beyond that,
I was looking at the Gold Press Latinum store because I've been hanging out on Riser, hence my disco shirt that I'm wearing today. Hanging out on Riser doing the summer event, and there is the Gold Press Latinum store there. So I've been having a look, seeing what items are available. And yes, there's a lot of holographic decoys and decals, or whatever you want to call them, to change the look of your ship or your character. That's not something that I'm going to do more than once. I don't use that. But I would be curious to find out from other players if that is something that they do often. Do you do it just to use Gold Press Latinum? Do you do it for fun? Or do you even just not bother? I would be genuinely curious to find out.
Well, that leads us to our gaming community question. What is the service you keep coming back to over and over in Star Trek Online? What is the service you keep coming back to over and over in Star Trek Online? Would you like it to be made available for purchase with dilithium? Again, let us know in the comments section for this episode at PriorityOnePodcast.com or on our social media channels. But moving on to other gaming news.
How about I read, let us know in the comment section, and then you can go into the next story.
Yeah, good idea.
Let us know in the comments section for this episode at PriorityOnePodcast.com.
Ah, technobabble. The true universal language of the future. Reversing polarities, phase inducers going out of alignment. Better run a level 4 diagnostic. This plausible nonsense. All of this plausible nonsense makes us go, Without it, we wouldn't have Particles of the Week. Engineering would have no miracle workers. And there would never be some kind of anomaly. So, if you want your Star Trek Adventures campaign to feel truly Trek, you'd better be ready to fucking talk like a shit. You'd better be ready to fucking expletive like to what expletive would go in there?
You better be ready to fuck like Starfleet's finest.
That doesn't make sense to me. You better be ready to...
Doesn't make sense. It's just the man wants... Thomas, who wrote this, the man wants to put in a swear.
Yeah, he wants to put in a swear, so I'm going to...
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, if you want your Star Trek Adventures campaign to feel truly Trek, you'd better be ready to fucking act like Starfleet's finest. So, if you want your Star Trek Adventures campaign to feel truly Trek, you'd better be ready to fucking act like Starfleet's finest, or let the computer handle it for you. On June 25th, Continuing Adventures shared Star Trek Adventures... On June 25th, Continuing Adventures shared Star Trek Adventures fan Mirko's instructions for making a Roll20 virtual tabletop technobabble generator. Mirko's macro script pulls technobabble terms from random roll tables, according to a do the sciencey science thing template. Players and GMs can use the in-game macro to come up with gems like oscillate the positronic flux membrane with a single click. However, figuring out how much buffer time you'll have for replicator margaritas still falls to you.
I love this. I love that this exists. That you can oscillate the positronic flux membrane or decouple the Heisenberg compensators.
I may try this out because one of the greatest barriers of entry to me role-playing in any sort of fashion in Star Trek has been the Treknobabble.
Really?
Yeah. I cannot improv that shit. I've role-played in environments like the Matrix Online back when the game was live. That was easier for me, right? Because I understood the hacker terminology. But Star Trek, I cannot roleplay to save my life because of that barrier to entry. I know that it's all make-believe, but it's still real words, right? And no way. There's no way I'd be able to do it. So maybe this is my entry into it.
Yeah, it's great. Can I tell you something? I have never properly played a role-playing game. Ever. Never. I didn't grow up with friends who played Dungeons and Dragons. I've never had the opportunity. So something like that, I go, oh, that would be something that would help get me through the door and get cheeks on seats. It's a nice little extra thing that's going to hopefully bring more people into playing it. So for me, I'm interested now because that's another thing that I don't have to get my head around. It's great.
But we've got news from other Star Trek games, don't we? Actually,
we do.
Let me do it. Wait. But we have news from another Star Trek game too, don't we?
That's right, Elio. Scopely, the publishers of Starfleet. Ah, crap.
that was
too casual.
Like, evening news. And now,
that's right, Tom.
And now back to you, Roscoe.
That's right, Tom. Coming to you from the chopper. Okay. That's right. Scopely, the publishers of Star Trek Fleet Command, announced this week they've added 2 people to their board of directors. Initial public offering advisor, Marcy Vu, and... Marcy Vu? Oh, no, thank you. Marcy Vu. Marcy's a lovely lady. Don't make fun of her. That's right. Scopely, the publishers of Star Trek Fleet Command, announced this week they've added 2 people to their board of directors. One is the initial public offering advisor, Marcy Vu, and the other is former Activision Blizzard president, Coddy Johnson. VentureBeat reports that Vu is a former executive at Catalyst and Morgan Stanley, where she was an advisor on IPOs for companies like Alibaba.com, Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, and Zynga. Johnson was the number 2 executive at Activision Blizzard, which has a market value of $74 billion. Walter Driver, the co-CEO at Scopely, said in an interview, quote, "As we think about building more player-centric views of our player experiences versus platform-centric views, I think that experience is really valuable. Coddy Johnson has operated at a tremendous scale. Very few people have had that kind of vantage point of leading such a large organization, both in terms of people and revenue." End quote. So Scopely looking to make sure that whatever game they are producing, the platform is irrelevant. You can have access to their game on whatever platform you decide to play on. That in itself is interesting. And the fact that they're eyeing off Activision Blizzard and going, we would like some of that. 74 billion, you say? We would very much like some of that. VentureBeat also said that it's likely that this is the company preparing to go public, but no official word from the company itself.
Well, that's the news in Star Trek gaming this week. Now, we look on screen with Dr. Michael Chen. 4416, please.
4416. Roger that. 4416. And then closing.
Well,
start
I gotta
45
and see if we have any more feedback, because I think we only have one.
Any more feedback? Feedback from the chat? Any feedback from last week? What do you think about using promo item sales to moderate Star Trek Online's dilithium economy? Folks, if you haven't had a chance, now is the time. Speak up or forever hold your P's and Q's.
Proverbial piece. All right, nothing on. Oh, wait. I'm checking Twitter.
What else is happening in the chat? Dave Rutley.
Dave Rutley said something funny, and I don't know what it was. Everybody was laughing at it.
You should only decouple the Heisenberg compensators when transporting tribbles. Fair.
And thank you, Matt Black,
as long
for
as
the tweet. I appreciate that. All right, so on Instagram, nothing but garbage report spam.
Garbage. DS9 had Ken from Chicago said DS9 had minimal techno babble.
Matt Black's message we got. And Robert Holloway.
Jamal says, seems okay, except for things that were special rewards for specific groups.
All right. Ready for closing?
Mm-hmm.
We'll do 46:30 for the start.
46:30, roger that.
All right, 3, 2. Well, captains, hailing frequencies are now open, and we're ready to receive all of your incoming messages.
This week's community question was, what
That's
do you
wrong.
think about...
That's wrong.
What?
Yeah, that's the wrong community question. Wait.
What?
What do you think of... Oh, my bad. It's the right one. My bad. I'm totally wrong. Sorry.
The right one. You sure?
I'm positive, yeah.
Cool. Okay. Again, you're being emotional. Okay. I need you to be logical.
Shut up!
Okay. Cleanse.
Shut up!
Cleanse.
Shut
Like burn some sage or something, man. Release the demons. This week's community question
You
was...
emotionless Vulcan asshole.
That is not a comment that I find enjoyable.
You green-blooded hobgoblin.
That's right. That's right. Fascinating. This week's community question was, what do you think about using promo item sales to moderate Star Trek Online's dilithium economy? This week's community question was, what do you think about using promo item sales to moderate Star Trek Online's dilithium economy? From Facebook, Matt Black says, I think it was a good caught with your breeches down quick fix, but it's already been overloaded. They need another dilithium sink.
Actually, let me read this one and you read the next one.
Cool.
On Facebook, Matt Black writes, I think it's a good caught with your breeches down quick fix, but it's already been overloaded. They need another dilithium sink. Maybe moving costumes into the dilithium store at similar high amounts.
I like that idea. I would support that idea. On our Facebook group, Robert Halloway says, I think it's a fantastic idea. In brackets, I know, probably unpopular opinion, but I think it gives players the chance to get items that aren't always readily available to everyone, a chance to get the items.
Well, that wraps up episode 515 of Priority... I hit the mic with my glasses. Well, that wraps up episode 515 of Priority 1, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. But there are more great shows available to you on the Roddenberry Podcast Network. Just visit podcasts.roddenberry.com for a complete list. Then be sure to subscribe to them all and share them with your friends.
Yeah, you should. It's really good. But we can't forget to send a special thanks to some of our Patreon supporters, like David K. Rutley, Peter Archibald, and Gerald Bosch.
And here's a reminder of our community questions, which we are currently copy and pasting from the other documents. Please hold.
Oh,
Thank
please.
you. And here's a reminder of our community questions this week. In general Star Trek news, do interviews like the ones with Roberto Orci and J.J. Abrams after the new content is dropped even come across your radar? If you're not listening to podcasts like ours, do these interviews that explain creative choices help fill in continuity gaps for you? And in gaming, what other Star Trek Online services from the game would keep you coming back over and over, especially if they're made available with dilithium purchases?
Captains, it's important to us that you get your voice heard and that you participate in the conversation. Leave us a comment on our website at priority1podcast.com, on our Facebook page at facebook.com/priority1podcast, or find us on Twitter and Instagram at priority1pod.
I'm going to skip this one for today.
Mm-hmm.
This episode of Priority One is brought to you by our patrons through patreon.com. As always, we are humbled by the ongoing support of those of you who find value in this production. Those of you that help us keep the lights on, that help us improve on our content, our technology to deliver the show. Especially now that Audacity might be going away. For more information on how you can support the show, for more information about how you can offer a monthly For more information about how you can support us monthly on Patreon, visit patreon.com/priority1.
And don't forget to tune in to Priority One Productions. What's that?
No, I have fireworks.
Oh, right. It's lightning, it's thunder, it's fireworks. What is going on in your country? Good Lord. Again, it's just sunshine here. That's all it is. It's so bright. Like there's no clouds, none at all. Oh, I'm just healthy
check under
and,
your desk
and
for a huntsman.
They are. His name's Pete, and he keeps all the little animals at bay, all the other little bugs. He looks after them. He's my friend. And don't forget to tune in to Priority One Productions' Guard Frequency podcast at guardfrequency.com. Each episode, the Guard will take you inside the universe.
I hate to do it, but instead of reading that, read the Armada. I'd rather have the Armada read.
All right.
Sorry, Tony.
We can do the Armada. And if you're still craving more, be sure to spend time with Winters, Anthony, Thomas, Gray, and Kat, plus the rest of the Priority One Armada. Saturday nights, the Armada broadcasts live to review the latest news from Star Trek Online and the Armada community, including spotlighting some of our amazing members. With regular giveaways, there is something for all Star Trek Online players, whether you are new or a veteran. Follow us on all our social media accounts for broadcast times, and if you'd like to join the Armada, visit PriorityOneArmada.com.
Thanks to our audio editors, including Gray, Brandon, William, Daniel, Rand, Alex, and Lennon. Thanks to our producer, Jake, and associate producers, Shane and Thomas. Together, they help us organize and write up our summary of the weekly headlines from the Star Trek multiverse. Thanks to our graphic artist, Alejandro, with support from Jason of the Priority One Armada. Thanks to the composer of our theme music, Chris Watts. But most importantly, a big thanks to you, the Star Trek community, our listeners. Because without your ongoing support, none of this would be possible. And that's a wrap for episode 515 of our show. I want to thank everybody for being a part of the conversation in the chat. Everybody from Anne-Marie Siegel from the Seventh Rule podcast. Hi, Anne-Marie. Ed O'Connell, Jamal, Chaos and Comics, Matt Black, and I'm missing so many names, but thank you all so very much for joining us on this evening as we cover all the headlines from the Star Trek multiverse, from films, gaming, community involvement, and more. So we'll be back again next week for episode 516 on Tuesday night.
And before we go,
9:30.
Jamal in the chat, going back to your Huntsman comment, and everything is poisonous. Jamal said sunshine and poisonous everything. In Australia. No, Jamal, that is not correct. It is sunshine and venomous everything. Sunshine. It is venomous.
I saw a picture of like this tiny little creature that was like gnarling, and it says this creature may look cute and it can't kill you, but it wants to kill you. And it's like, a meme in Australia. It can't kill you, but it wants to. I wish I could find
it looks like it could kill you, or
no, it's tiny. It's tiny. It was like a little. It fit on. It was like wrapped around somebody's thumb. It was like a small lemur or something, and it was like, yeah. And it says it can't kill you, but it wants to. Australia, or something like that.
It would. If it could fashion a shiv, it would kill you. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Until next week, say goodnight.
Night, everyone. Thank you for your comments. Great to catch up. Have a fantastic week.